Today on the show, we're talking about podcasts. Why doesn't everyone start a podcast?
The stereotype is that everyone has started a podcast.
People are watching podcasts. They're not just listening to them.
We have a lot to dive into. I'm Mia.
I'm Paul.
And this is
Gems of the Internet. I'm so excited to be doing this podcast. I love making podcasts. I love working on podcasts. I love listening to podcasts.
You're all in.
I'm all in on
All
podcasts.
three.
And it feels so aligned with everything because podcasts are becoming so big.
Mm-hmm.
We did a little bit of research here. We found the article that coined the term podcasting. They literally say what do we call this? Audio blogging, podcasting, ? That was the first time someone had written that out. And that's because of Apple's iPod.
I didn't know that until more recently than I'd like to admit.
I brought one of my iPods.
It looks like such a baby in your hand.
I know,
yeah,
right?
It's so cute.
And I still love, I can't believe that this design, it's so thin and small, from 2007, and it's thinner than an iPhone. The term podcasting has transcended the iPod, right? We don't use iPods.
We don't even
much
think
anymore.
about it anymore. Yeah.
It just is a thing. It's oh, you know what that is. In this article from 21 years ago, they talk about podcasting in a similar way that we still talk about podcasting.
It's all the things in that quote are still true today.
It's still totally relevant. From the beginning, it was just very established on what a podcast was and how accessible it is to anyone that wants to make a podcast. They literally say anyone can be a publisher, anyone can be a broadcaster. Let's see if this works.
I don't think people at the time realized how big of a difference it would make just that the tools were readily available.
Totally.
Because when podcasts first came onto the scene, you didn't have to ask permission to broadcast your thoughts in the same way that someone who wanted to be on TV would.
And downloading podcasts onto an iPod to listen to it is kind of an amazing just thing to think about.
Yeah.
Before streaming, that's how you would do it. And
iPods were so obviously a music device.
Totally.
It would be an intimate kind of relationship with your favorite
totally,
artist. And at the same time, you were having an intimate kind of listening relationship with the podcast host in the same way.
Yeah. Yesterday I was doing some research for this new video I'm working on that's about some podcast features that Patreon is releasing. And I was talking with this guy, Bhavik. He's on the podcast team at Patreon, and he was explaining that the RSS feed is an open source technology that's been available since the beginning of podcasting. From the beginning, podcasting has always been so accessible.
Yeah, I think the implication with open source is that anyone can kind of get their hands on it.
Exactly. The RSS feed being open source lets anyone use it, which is amazing. And that's still how people distribute their podcasts today.
It's one of the more accessible technologies.
If this is interesting to you and you want to hear us go a little deeper on the behind the scenes software side of things, we recorded a conversation with Bhavik. Hey Bhavik.
Hi.
And he really dives deep, explains a lot about the back end of how things work when you upload to an RSS feed and how that distributes it throughout the internet. And I didn't know any of it, but the way he explained it, it made it so easy to understand. And when he was explaining, he was I could go a lot deeper. So we
Stop me anytime.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was I want to hear all of it. We have a bonus episode on the Patreon for Creators page, which if you don't know, that's a Patreon page that's run by the people at Patreon that's specifically for creators who are on Patreon. It's a super valuable resource because we post a lot of kind of tips and tricks and tutorials and bonus features that are made specifically for people who are creating on Patreon. You can check out my conversation with Bhavik there. Podcast being audio only from the beginning, that's not that new. Radio has been around for forever, but podcasts sort of represented one of the first times that you could choose what you wanted to listen
and when.
to. When it was streaming before streaming, because you were choosing what to listen to and when to listen to it. This predates YouTube, so I think the biggest thing that's new with podcasting today is the video side of things. Why did video become a thing that podcasters felt the need to include?
I think it's because uploading to YouTube automatically kind of puts you in front of audiences that you might not otherwise reach with the recommendation feature and maybe getting featured on the homepage.
Video came from a lot of YouTubers making their own podcasts.
Yeah, it's what came first, the chicken or the
Right,
egg.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's how many podcasters became YouTubers or how many YouTubers became podcasters. We don't really know. I am curious to know what the first video podcast
Ooh.
was.
Now I want to look that up.
Let me just look it up real quick. It was a show called Dead End Days, a serialized dark comedy about zombies, released from October 31st, 2003 through 2004. It's commonly believed to be the very first video podcast.
Oh, that's so cool.
Even if you did start a podcast today and it was audio only, like I
Mhm.
think it could still find success.
Yeah.
What I like about a podcast is like connecting with like the host of it. And I think a video podcast is unique because you get to see the person, obviously, and like you get more of a thing.
Mhm.
I also think that there's something that is just like nice about seeing someone talk and then like hearing crisp audio from it. I feel like it's
Yeah.
kind of a slept
Because it's
on-
like you're there.
and but also just like having like a microphone, like you're like up close to a microphone, like it's like so like crisp
Yeah.
and nice. Like it's not like
The idea of actually seeing the person who's talking is interesting because I grew up listening to a lot of NPR and all of
Right.
the hosts from NPR's, you know, and
Yeah.
KCRW and the radio and everything
Yeah,
are
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, I have no idea what they look like. It's actually crazy when I see a photo of them. 'Cause it's like, oh, I like, you were my childhood and now
Totally.
Tom Schnabel is just a guy.
it's almost like you don't want to see that. Like
Yeah.
it's like
You're like, keep it a mystery.
yeah, like I don't want to
Yeah.
see what you look like. Yeah.
That's funny. Obviously, people have heard about the Alex Coopers and the Joe Rogans. Over 450 million people listened to podcasts just in 2023. With that rate of growth, by 2026, they're projecting that it's 619 million people.
I knew podcasting was big, but I didn't know it was that big.
It's like, I think, competing with TV.
There are more podcasts than TV shows.
That makes sense because it's lower lift and it's more
Exactly.
accessible.
Right.
Yeah.
I do feel like a podcast, like, you know, it's a serialized thing. There's episodes, like it's like a TV show.
Yeah. Episodic viewing. That's a good
Yeah,
point.
like
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that are doing creative things with podcasts, like making a scripted radio drama. Like
Mhm.
that's a big part of podcasting,
Yeah, yeah.
and that is a TV show itself. It's just all audio. Like,
I actually used to work for a company that did like fictionalized audio
Cool.
series, and it was really cool.
what
like
was it?
they did, it was called when I worked there, it was called Serial Box, but now they
Oh.
rebranded to Realm, and they did an extension of Orphan Black,
Whoa,
the
Orphan
TV
Black.
series. They did like a, what's it called, like a spin-off of Orphan Black, and they
That's
had the
cool.
actress from it, and it was just audio, and you get to
Wow,
imagine things in your head.
that is something
Yeah.
that I really love about audio. Is like I feel like maybe more than any other sense, it takes you there. Like
Oh yeah,
you
you're
can-
in the
yeah,
story.
like you can
You're in the
picture
thick of
where
it.
you're at.
Especially the scary ones. There's some like crazy sci-fi
Yeah.
scary ones that
It's-
Realm makes too. Yeah.
It's incredible. I worked on a podcast that was like a radio drama one,
Ooh.
and it was so fun to like build the soundscapes. Like
Were you doing some Foley
oh,
stuff too?
I was
yourself?
doing everything. Yeah,
Oh,
I was
cool.
doing Foley. I was doing
You
a
had
lot
like
of sound
shoes on your
effects.
hands, like
Yeah,
Oh,
I never
okay.
did the shoes on the
Okay,
hands,
okay.
but like little like glasses clinking. Like sometimes it's just easier to make your own sound effect
Yeah.
than like find something.
yeah, that makes
But
sense.
one track of audio of like restaurant ambiance can like
Oh,
take
it's like
you there.
layered.
Yeah,
you're
like-
you got to create the whole world from scratch. So you're like, there's a plate, there's
Right,
a guy
but-
talking. Yeah.
But it's like you can have many layers, but also it can just be one layer and you're there. Podcasts have always been a part of my life in a way.
Your media diet.
Yeah, My media diet. Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
My
I did
media
not
diet.
coin that term.
That's
Yeah,
funny. I was trying to think like when did I first really get into podcasting?
Mhm.
And I have two like vivid memories about this. The first one was I was a kid and I was a big fan of Rhett and Link as a kid.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They started a podcast. I don't remember exactly when, but I remember being kind of early to their show,
Mhm.
Ear Biscuits.
We have the same producer.
Kiko, our producer, used to work on this
That's
podcast.
any indication we've got big shoes to fill.
I know, it feels like kind of full circle.
Yeah.
Like Rhett and Link were early to the podcasting game as YouTubers. It was audio only from the beginning,
But eventually they switched over to video.
but they did. Yeah,
Oh,
they
okay.
made the
Okay.
switch. That was really like one of the first times where I was like, wow, I'm connecting with this podcast.
Mhm.
And I remember almost feeling like I couldn't get enough of it. Like,
yeah. Like,
it-
I need more.
Yeah, like it
Yeah,
was like
I
one
wanna
would
do more
end and I'd be like, I
tasks.
gotta listen to
Yeah.
another one. And I was listening to them on SoundCloud. Back then, I didn't have Spotify. I'm sure Apple Podcasts existed,
Mhm.
but SoundCloud was just like where I
So then
found-
Rhett and Link were uploading to
They
SoundCloud.
were uploading to
That's so
SoundCloud,
interesting.
yeah.
I never would have. Yeah, I just
Right.
always assumed it's music only, but I
Yeah.
guess you can. Yeah, anything
Totally.
audio.
Do you remember the first like podcast that you like really felt like it was
Yeah.
like your podcast?
Song Exploder was a
Oh,
big one
yes.
for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, I don't have any like musical training. I don't really play any instruments, but it really made me appreciate music in a different way.
Totally.
And it's like one of the best and simplest structures for a podcast about music,
Yeah.
because he plays the song in the beginning and then also plays it
Yes.
at the end.
Yeah.
And in between, they talk about how they layer the song and do the whatever drums first, then lyrics and guitar, whatever.
Totally. I love Song Exploder.
Yeah.
That was one of the like the early podcasts that I like discovered. It's also one of the only podcasts that I still listen to.
Yeah, that's
Like-
held your attention for
yes,
this long.
like
Yeah.
it's like perfect for the audio medium. Like,
Mm-hmm.
have you seen the Netflix episodes?
Didn't even know that they had one.
Okay, so
that seems a little like unnecessary because the audio part is so good.
Exactly. It's like, it feels a little indulgent, and it's still awesome. Like, those episodes are amazing. It's like, I'm glad that they didn't ruin like the vibe of the show.
But
Change
it completely.
It's literally just the exact same format, but like they're recording it, and then there's a little bit more like kind of documentary style, like they're in the studio and stuff, which is cool. But perfect execution for an audio only podcast, because all it is music, and you can listen to like the demos. Like, I love when they're like, I had a voice memo that I recorded in my bathroom at 2 in the morning.
Actually hear it.
And then like, there it is. Like,
because you're kind of like, it's bringing you as a fly on the wall into the
Totally.
process, and you don't necessarily need to see the visual.
What's genius about Song Exploder, and I think that if you're looking to start your own podcast, like, keep in mind, like, what could you continue making episodes about? Song Exploder, they're like, they do a different
repeatable format. Yeah, for
it's
sure.
a different song every episode,
and it's something that he's genuinely interested in and loves, and you can really hear that.
Totally.
And he's not like, he hasn't over engineered the concept for the show. Like, it's simple enough, it's repeatable, he's talking about what he loves. Like, think about that if you're trying to start a new show.
Yeah, like, he's passionate about it. I think that the guy Richie K. Sherway, he like produces his own music, so like,
so that makes sense.
He's in that world, and he also knows how to like use stems.
Take because that's a huge part of the show. They'll start with each, they kind of go through each stem.
And that feels so special. Like, the fact that like you can listen to an episode about a song that maybe you love, and then you can hear just the bass line isolated.
Yeah, or just the vocals
just
by
the
themselves.
vocal.
Yeah,
Yes,
that part's
like,
crazy.
It just feels like the perfect kind of like value, like, because it's like, I feel like from a podcast you kind of want to get something like a little like extra, like, especially audio only, like, it's in your head. It's like a sacred space, like, with the host.
Yeah, it's like an intimate relationship.
And like, they're like giving you a lot. I do have like a Song Exploder story, like, because it was one of the first podcasts that I discovered, but I discovered it on accident. For some reason, I like got the Bob's Burgers theme song stuck in my head.
It's catchy.
It's
song.
a catchy little song.
Yeah,
it's an instrumental little track. Yeah. And I like was trying to find the song online, and I couldn't find it. Like, I was trying to just find like the track, and that's how I discovered Song Exploder, because they did an episode with the guy that made that song.
Oh, that's cool. See, the curation is also really good. It's like
totally.
these niche.
If I'm a fan of a show, I kind of establish this trust with the show where I'm like, I trust your taste. So whoever you're going to talk to or whatever you're going to talk about, it might be interesting to me. And there's been so much music from a Song Exploder that I've found because I've like just listened to the episode of an artist that I had no idea they existed. And I feel that way with like guest-based shows, like Mark Maron's podcast WTF. Like, I'll listen to basically any show he puts out, even if I don't know who it is. Like, if there's a name and I'm like, I've never heard of that
trust
person.
I'm like, of the caliber.
And oftentimes, like, I'm left feeling like I needed to hear that.
Oh, it like reaches you at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
and you feel smarter after. Yeah,
like,
for sure.
And like, I know a lot of them are just like, they're on some kind of press junket and they have to do like promotional things and whatever. But like,
his feels different.
His do feel different. Yeah.
A question that a lot of people might have is when they should start a podcast. Like, when is their idea fully baked enough to actually take it off the ground?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of tough, because I think a lot of people like have this experience where they have like an amazing conversation with like a friend or someone, and they're like, we should start a podcast, and it's like, well, should you? Or like, maybe,
are you just having fun with your buddy, or do you think
like,
other people would enjoy it? And
I do think like there's no problem in just starting one and seeing what happens, because I think what's cool, with a lot of shows, like, it kind of like finds its voice itself, like the more you do it,
but you have to
like,
try over and over. You're not gonna hit it a home run on the first try, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. With a lot of the podcasts that I've like started and been a part of, like, in the first like 1 or 2 episodes, you kind of start feeling like, okay, we've got something, but then it's really by like the 4th or 5th episode that you're like,
find a groove,
this is the show. Starting a podcast today sort of feels like the new like, let's start a band. And I think that also applies to the naming of podcasts, because I
forgot bands do have names.
No, totally. But also, like, I have like a notes app that's like band names, and I think a lot of people do, where it's like, you'll hear something and you're like, that would be a funny band name, like a random thing, and that can work with podcasts. Like, I think it's important to sort of ride the line of like, your name will sort of give you an idea of what the podcast is about. But also, like, I think that you can kind of make like a random name, like, you know, Wheezy Waiter.
Wheezy Waiter, of course, grew up with. He
has a podcast called, I think it's called like guys talk about lettuce or something. The show is definitely not them just talking about lettuce. I've had more experiences being on the post-production side of a podcast than hosting one.
Yeah.
Listening back to like old episodes that I edited, I feel like I can kind of remember where I was in my life, especially if it's like every week. It like is really like a landmark that you're like, okay, like this was happening. Like it just feels like a journal in that way. And even if the topic of your show isn't like about your life, just doing it weekly, having that built into your routine, you'll look back on that and like remember things.
Yeah, who you were when you were recording, especially if it's a video podcast. You're like, whoa, 10 years ago that was my haircut.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, which I really love that, and I'm excited for this podcast to like have it become a part of our weekly routine.
Same here, because I'm so bad at like journaling and taking photos of things as they're happening. So it's cool to get that as a time capsule.
Totally. There was a podcast that I really loved called Millennial. That podcast was like a vlog, basically. It was like this woman who was like trying to get a job at NPR, and you kind of like follow her.
And starting a podcast was like part of her kind of like resume journey.
Yeah, like that's a perfect example of a show that like sort of found its voice by making the podcast. Like in the beginning, it was like Millennial podcast about it was called Millennial podcast about how to like navigate your 20s. It was like, that was sort of like tagline. Yeah. But then it turned into like this sort of like self-portrait of this woman who was doing this, and like because
if you do
it's
it for
audio
long
like,
enough you get a good idea of who she is.
And I think it'd be kind of fun if we just sort of like said a few little bullet points about like where we're at right now, like
our milestones,
like in our life, just so that we can look back on it.
Cool.
Like we're both working at Patreon.
Yes.
We both work remotely at Patreon.
What's your role?
I'm the short form video creator on the social team.
I'm the associate producer for Digital Spaghetti. Digital Spaghetti is Patreon's interview show where Jack Conti sits down with creators to talk about their creative process.
It's an amazing YouTube channel, and
Go subscribe.
I like didn't know that it was a part of Patreon.
Me
like,
neither, actually. When I was watching
which
it,
I think is genius.
Very intentional.
No, it's genius. Like
they just want it to be more like casual and like Jack just sitting down with people and talking about what he loves.
It's perfect. It's exactly what it should be. And if I had that when I was like 15, I think I would have learned so much more than I learned in like
I love how educational it is. With like the gear, and we have our little lower thirds explaining stuff.
And the lower thirds are actually so good.
We put a lot of effort into those. They're pretty good.
Like if you haven't seen the show, it's like when someone mentions something like
what's ND filter.
It's awesome. It's just like so educational and good.
You're 26, I'm 27.
Yes.
You're East Side and I'm West Side in LA.
Yes, in LA. My commute was a 9-minute drive.
Mine was 30, but I had a good podcast.
That's good.
So,
what podcast did you listen to?
Normally I listen to the Colin and Samir show, which I used to work on, so it's nostalgic for me. Sometimes I'm like, traffic. I'm like trying to rewire my brain into being like, it's a good thing because now I have an uninterrupted hour to
When I have a long drive, I need a podcast. Like something about music, like I mean
it doesn't activate your brain enough. It's not like
I think that's what it
turn
is.
on
like,
enough.
I mean it depends. Like if there's like a new album out or something, like maybe I'll just like blow through the album like 1 or 2 times.
But that's more passive.
But a podcast, like I can lock in, I can like focus on it.
Oh, also time capsule. It's my dad's birthday.
Oh my god,
happy birthday to my dad.
What's your dad's name?
Slavisha.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a tough name to
pronounce. We're Serbian, so Slavi for sure.
Wow, well happy birthday to your dad.
Happy birthday to your dad.
A big fear when starting a podcast is like, who's going to listen to this and how are they going to discover my show? I've experienced that. Like I did this little podcast. It was kind of like an experiment, like just a little exercise, like a little project. My friend and I started a podcast all about birds.
Yeah.
And we did a different bird every episode. And we were like, let's just try to do
daily, right?
We did a daily podcast.
Yeah.
We did an episode every single day, 5 days a week. We would record on like a Monday and then that episode would come out on Tuesday. So it was like we had at least like a day to kind of like I would edit it all and then he would give me some notes if we had anything. But it got to the point where we weren't even really like listening back to it. Like it was just sort of like we got it down.
Flow.
Like, and it was like a 20-minute per episode. It wasn't like anything like crazy. That show maxed out at like I think 220 listeners. Like that was like the most people that listened to an episode, and like we did like 30 of them. And it felt like, I was like, how long are we going to keep doing this? We weren't getting paid to do it. It was like purely just something that we wanted to do for fun. It was the first time that I experienced both like, dang, like how are we going to grow this thing? But also watching it grow slowly and like having that
It's
consistency
like planting
of, like,
a seed.
yeah, like having like, especially I think having one a day, like I think that the reason why we stopped is like I kind of got burnt
You ran out
out.
of birds.
Like,
yeah.
no, we did not run out of birds. We could have done that for like years,
Years
but
and years.
that consistency doing every day for like 2 months.
Yeah. I mean, you're just putting in your reps like a crazy amount.
That
yeah.
like getting it like templatized and like kind of like getting it down and like, you know, we'd hit our points and like there's only so much you can really talk about a bird, so that's why it was just like 15 20
Short and
minutes.
sweet,
Like yeah, but it was like nice and like we did have a lot of recurring fans. Like one of my sister's
Yeah.
friends became like a fan of it. I never met her
That's
before.
awesome.
And she
Yeah.
like loved the show. She would like anticipate it. She was like, I can't wait. Like
And that's worth something.
Totally,
Like just because
like-
you have 200, you know, they're not chopped liver.
right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think it's like important is that like if you're going in thinking that this is going to be like the next like Call Her Daddy or Joe Rogan or whatever like the biggest podcasts are, Emma Chamberlain, like yeah, it could be, and you can have those dreams, but I think that now we're living in this age where if you have a podcast who has a solid fan base of like 1,000 people,
Yeah, people look forward to it and you're improving their life.
that's success. Like that's business right there. Like that's awesome. Like
That's showbiz.
that's
baby.
all you need. Yeah,
Yeah.
1,000 people, and even then, it's like 200 people listening to our bird podcast. Like that's not a lot of people. Very niche vibe, but like 200 people in this room would fill the whole room.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole house, maybe.
That's a lot of
even. Yeah.
people. And I think that when you think about it in those terms, like that's awesome. And then if you're trying to think about it, like I want to make this like my job, or I want like to earn some income from a podcast. Like what if those 200 people each gave me like $5 each, like, and I could give them like stickers of birds or
Yeah.
something
On a
like,
recurring basis, like that's a salary.
$1,000 a month. And maybe that's not my full-time thing, but like that would give me enough of motivation to like continue doing it.
Reinvest it back into the podcast.
Totally,
Get some
yeah.
good
Maybe
mics. Yeah.
get a better microphone.
Yeah.
Maybe I get some binoculars.
Yeah.
Like maybe we do video and I get a long lens for my
Go to
camera
a bird
and I can
museum.
shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like there actually is a bird museum, and we were trying to get them to sponsor the podcast.
Oh, and they didn't?
They didn't. No, because it was like, what we're gonna do. Like
Yeah.
we did get one sponsor. We got a sponsor like right on like the last like few episodes.
Whoa.
It was a bird feed company, or it was
A bird feeder?
yeah, like they
Is it the
made-
high tech one with the camera?
No, it was like they made like some kind of special bird seed itself, like so it wasn't like
special
the thing.
formula.
Yeah, it was like full of like
with like protein powder,
Yeah,
so the
which, like-
birds get buff.
exactly
Yeah.
yeah, it was something like that. Like it was like kind of funny.
Cool.
Which I literally never opened and then felt so bad throwing away. I brought all that up to say like the biggest fear for some people starting a podcast is the discovery of it, because it's hard to discover a
Yeah.
podcast. It's also like hard to get into a podcast that's new unless
It takes a lot of trust.
Yeah,
I feel like, yeah.
because it's a lot of time. Like if your podcast is an hour long and like you don't know the hosts of it, and maybe you don't know the guest, or you just don't know anything, it's like, am I going to commit an hour to listen to a podcast
From a stranger.
Yeah, like maybe not. Like I think that this is where video podcasting has really become an important part
Right.
of the
Yeah, that's why it's exploded. YouTube has made discovery so much easier.
Totally.
Yeah, and it feels more like they know the person.
discovery on YouTube is huge, but then making shorts from a video podcast.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you're microdosing a podcast.
Yeah.
Like it's literally
Love that.
like you hear the voices, you see the people, they talk about something funny. Now you're in. Now you know
And
what to
that's the
expect.
best bit.
Exactly.
Yeah, it
And-
immediately just gives you the best
Totally.
nugget.
And now it's like if you want, you can go listen to the full thing. There are a number of podcasts that I only enjoy their shorts, and I've never actually reached the point of listening to like a full
Yeah,
episode.
wanting the whole thing. It's like a snack.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a snack.
You don't always
'cause, like,
want a
the
full
short-
meal. Yeah.
Like the short is like enough for me, and I'm like, that's funny, that's
Yeah.
cool, I learned something, I'll move on. Like
And some podcasts are only shorts, like Subway Takes.
okay,
Yeah.
it's sort of like, what is a podcast?
Does it have to be super long?
Right. Like
Not necessarily.
if you boil it down, it's really just like people talking. It could be one person telling a story. It could be multiple people, but it's like people talking, connecting, communicating. That idea that like a short series like Subway Takes could be considered a podcast, even though it's not marketed as a podcast, it still is ultimately a podcast.
Interview.
Like, two people
format.
holding
Yeah.
microphones. Like, yeah.
With a little Metro card.
I love that. People are watching podcasts. They're not just listening to them. Like
Yeah.
they're
People are putting them on their giant TVs.
watching YouTube on your TV has become way more popular than I could have ever imagined.
They actually just beat out Spotify as the top podcast platform, which is just a crazy sentence because Spotify just is such a giant in the space. It's like, how does the video platform beat out the one that was made, I don't know, arguably
like,
for podcasts and music?
And that shows like how important video podcasts have become in the space. It's like, I wonder if YouTube will start making like original podcasts, or like how Spotify did. There's a lot of issues with streaming and Spotify and things, but the fact that Spotify is willing to pay that much just for a podcast, but then they pay music artists like fractions of a penny,
like 0.00.
There's a problem there, and I don't even want to get into it.
That'll be our next episode.
Yeah. Speaking of our next episode, we haven't really like figured out what we're going to talk about next, but we do have a whole list of ideas about things that we do want to talk about. A lot of things we want to talk about on this show are internet things, like creator things, artist things, anything that has to do with just like interesting stories that we can find about people or things on the internet, and we want to talk about them. Podcasts, obviously huge. We're starting a podcast, like that's a big thing to talk about, but this isn't just going to be a show about podcasts. Like, no, we need to make that clear.
We're not just going to talk about the history of podcasts.
So for future episodes, I would love to like bring on people that were a part of the internet from like the early days. Like I really want to find a person or maybe a few people who were in charge of the YouTube homepage from like back in like 2005, 2006, like
where it used to be picked by actual people instead of the algorithm.
Right. And I mean, like that's the fact that I've heard. I'm pretty sure that's what they were doing.
I think in the beginning.
I think
they might have.
Yeah, everything was like handpicked. And there's so many YouTubers who ended up being so huge that say like my video ended up on the homepage and that is what blew up my channel.
Yeah, that's like, what rocket shipped me.
Which is amazing. Top, and like, you know, I think that nowadays there's just so much more to watch on YouTube that it's like they can't do that anymore because the audience,
they can't do it by hand anymore.
Yeah, there's so much more like nuance to all that. But I know that you were big into Vine back in the day.
Oh yeah, I'm known for having encyclopedic knowledge of all the Vines. Speaking of a time capsule, that is like so 2015.
Totally. Yeah. Can we just get back to that? Like, what would happen today if we just started posting like 6-second clips on TikTok?
Well, I just love and not to get too much on the tangent of Vine, but the format of only having 6 seconds bred so much creativity, like with that limitation, and the fact that you could only record when you were pressing stop motion. There were such cool animations that came out of that. Yeah. And all the VFX stuff.
Yeah. I love that. And I would love to talk more about that. One thing I see on TikToks in the comments will be like, this has Vine energy.
Yeah. It's such a like pop culture and reference now.
Yeah. Like I love that. Like I'd love to talk about things like that. I would love to get like questions from people that might be curious about what we think about things or like what we're up to. Like
our work. We do other things. This is our side gig.
I think it'd be fun to dive into some like projects we're working on at Patreon.
For sure.
There's so many cool things that happen at Patreon that we like no one talks about.
Yeah.
It just
lives in our Slack, and we want to bring it out into the world.
Literally. And I'm like, how is this not something that we're talking about? So that was a big part of why I wanted to start the show, because I'm like, let's talk about what's happening at Patreon. There's a lot of really cool things, and the people at Patreon really care about creators, and it's made me like have a new appreciation for people who create online. Yeah. You can be an artist and you don't need permission, and you can literally earn a salary, which is a crazy concept. It's incredible. There's one story that I really want to dive in on about the Telepathic Instruments collab with Patreon. I would love to understand that better. I got like a little bit of insight, but like we'll get into another episode. I don't want to get into it. Thank you guys for listening. Leave a comment if you're able to. I think you can leave a comment on the Spotify video player. You definitely can on YouTube. And maybe comment on the Patreon for Creators page if you're able. Yes. Thanks for listening. And thanks for listening.